Namo Shakyamuni Buddha. So today we continue to discuss about the life of Buddha. And last time we have learned that Yasha, the young man, he ran away from his house because he didn't want to enjoy his luxury life at home. Uh, Even his uh, have many wives to follow him. So because of that kind of boring, so he went out and saw the Buddha. So the Buddha gave him the teaching, and at that moment he recognized what he was looking for, and he want to become the Buddha disciple. And later on, his father knew that his son kept uh, running away, so he followed him, uh, and somehow he ended up to meet with the Buddha. So again, the Buddha gave him the teaching, and at that moment he understood and want to become the Buddha disciple. So later on, both them, the father and the son, invite the Buddha go to his house to enjoy the meal. So the Buddha did, and when he went there, so the Buddha gave the teaching to the whole families, and eventually Yasa asked the Buddha permission to become the monk. So the Buddha accepted his request, and later on the Buddha gave the ordination for this young man. So this is the image that the Buddha went there to accept the view of Yasha parents. And later on, when Yasha became monks, he has his friends that inquire the reason why Yasa becoming the monk. So it is for best friends eventually follow Yasa too. So Vimala, Subahu, Punaja, Gavampati, so they follow Yasa to become the Buddhist monk. And within 2 months, Yasha and his friends brought in another 50 noble young men. So after they learned about Yasha, and those young men had become monks. So those 50 noble young men follow and asked Buddha to give them ordinations, and the Buddha accept them. Eventually, all of them practice diligently and become arhats. That means the holy monks. So at that moment, there was total of 60 arhats. So the Buddha call the meeting and direct them to propagate Buddha Dharma. And he said that each of them need to go in different directions for the sake of mankind and devas to spread the Dharma, to bring the benefit and happiness to all. So here the Buddha advised them to go in different direction to spread the peaceful teaching of the Buddha. So here he said that go form monks for the good of many, for the happiness of many, so that their lives will be purified and brightened, especially for those who have like passion and little desire. It will be a great loss if they have not had the chance to learn the Dharma. So he encouraged them to go in different directions. And for him, he would go to teach at Guru Vilas. So here you see that the Buddha encouraged his student to go in different directions to spread his teaching as missionaries. And again, for the first year at the Deer Park in Sarnath, that's the Buddha spent. He taught the Dhamma Kaphavatthana Sutra. This is the turning Dhamma wheel. That's related to the Four Noble Truths, the Eightfold Paths, who have spoken in length in the past. And Anathana Sutra that talk about no self, that we discussed before, and he formed the Buddhist Sanghas. That's is considered as one of the triple gems, the Buddha, Dhamma, and the Sangha. And he led Yasa and his 54 friends to join in the Sangha. That's why they were first 60 holy monks that the Buddha advised them to spread his teaching in different era. So for him, the Buddha eventually went by himself to Uru Vilas. He resides at the place of the North Hair Court. We have populations of 1,000 people. So this group of people were led by three Kassapa brothers. He went there to teach these people. The three brothers are Kassapa, Uruveda, Nadi, Gaya. So when he went there, according to the records, it said that they practice what we call fire worshipping. So, in the past, the fire was so important for people because without fire, they didn't have things to warm up themselves in the winter. Without fire, they would not have the means to cook the food, to boil the water, and so forth. So that's why in India, 1,000 years ago, and even now, there's some students, so some people, they still worship fire, and they think fire is one of their own gods. So that's why for this three brothers, Kassapa brothers, they worship the fire. So when the Buddha went there, so they didn't allow the Buddha to stay overnight, but the Buddha insisted that he could stay there, and especially at one of the residents. There was a Naga Chacha Maralinga, that's been the fearful big snake, the poisonous one. So they believe that this Naga king or serpent king was a mighty one. So that's why they worship this Naga king or the big snake as well as the fire. So when the Buddha went there, he asked them if he could stay overnight. At first, they reject the idea because Buddha didn't follow their path. But later on, they challenged the Buddha that if you stay here, this type of serpents will kill you with his poison air or fire. So the Buddha just smiled and said, well, as long as you allow me to stay here, that's fine. I can handle my life. So of course, they allow the Buddha to stay overnight over there in one of their residence, especially at the place where that big snake stay in. So at night, the big snake went out, and somehow the Buddha used his virtue to tame this big snake. And in the morning, the three brothers came. They thought that the Buddha was killed, but this big snake, somehow it turned out that that big snake appeared in the Buddha bowl that has been tamed by the Buddha. And another instant that when there was a big flood in that area, so here's the image that somehow the Buddha was not grounded, but he walked around, and the surrounding water could not harm the Buddha at all in this image. And later on, these three brothers thought that the Buddha must have surely grounded, so they took a boat to go and search for him. Only they found out that the Buddha was walking meditation on the surface of the water. And eventually, this image here, the big snake was tamed by the Buddha, and eventually these three brothers recognized the Buddha virtue. And so after listening to the Buddha sermon or teaching, they were all happy together to request following the Buddhas to become the Buddhist monks. And definitely the Buddha accept them into the Sangha to become bishop, that means Buddhist monk. So all people from that group later on, due to their diligent practice, eventually they become arhats, that means the holy monks, within a few months. So there is one of the largest groups of followers, and after the three brothers attend honorship to become Buddhist monk, at that moment, one of them, Uruveda Kashyapa, realized that he was not an arhat as he thought before. That was his mistake, and he's so delightful to follow the Buddha teachings with his brothers as well as his followers. And so now, wherever the Buddha went, he has a large group of disciples to follow him. So later on, the Buddha went to Raja Graha. That is the place where the Buddha first met the king, Bimbisara, when he was prince, and left the palace to search for the truth. So we learned that at that time, the king Bimbisara recognized Prince Siddhartha and invite him to stay back to run the country with him. But of course, Prince Siddhartha rejected the idea because he let go of his kingdom to search for the truth. How much more he won the other land before he found the truth. That's why he rejected this king offer. But somehow this king requires the Buddha that if he could come back to teach him after his enlightenment. So the Buddha promised. That's why after converting the three Kassapa brothers as well as 1,000 men, the Buddha led them to this city and taught this king. Somehow later on, at that time, because the three Kassapa were really famous in the era, so when the king approached to the Buddhas and those three brothers, so he confused whether they were the Buddha disciple or the Buddha followed them. So at that time, the Buddha asked the three Kassapa brothers to explain to the king, and definitely these three Kassapa brothers explained to the king that they were the Buddha disciple. So here is the mark that show where the Buddha went around to teach others. So here, Magadha, that is the place where the Buddha went and convert the three Kassapa brothers as well as 1,000 men. And there's the Raja Graha, that's the city here where he met King Bimbisara. And here you can see that the mark here, this is Maga Mada, and there are 16 in total, small kingdom during the Buddha times. And Magadam was one of the most powerful kingdom during Buddha times. That was run by the king Bimsara. So let me show you this. Okay.
Our home, a giant stage where so many great stories have played out. Around 2,500 years ago, and they were called the Mahajanapadas. Some of them were more powerful than the others, and all of them were competing with each other. The four main Mahajanapadas were the Kashi, Koshala, Magadha, and the Republic of the Vajjis. And they were battling it out to see who would emerge as the supreme power in the region. The royal rumble between these kingdoms for power went on for a long time, until finally one of them emerged as the victor, Magadha. Yes, over time, Magadha rose to become one of the most powerful Mahajanapadas. It would be the center of power in northern India for centuries to come. Magadha was ruled by a lot of dynasties. The first important dynasty to rule Magadha was the Haryanka dynasty, and the first to the throne was Bimbisara. The best thing about him was that in addition to the normal methods of expanding his kingdom, such as wars, Bimbisara had another interesting strategy: marriages. Yes, he acquired territory and allies not only through wars, but through marriages as well. He married into ruling families from Vaishali, Koshala, etc. to have powerful friends everywhere. But maybe he took this policy a bit too seriously. Bimbisara is said to have had 500 wives. That's a lot of birthdays to remember. Anyway, Bimbisara kept expanding his kingdom, and Magadha soon stretched over a very large area. He ruled from 544 BCE to 492 BCE and lived in the age of the Buddha. There are even stories that he met and took the blessings of the Buddha when Buddha visited Magadha. He conquered other Mahajanapadas like Avanti, and Avanti's fabled southern capital Mahishmati was taken over. He established the first capital of Magadha at Rajagriha. He ran a well-administered kingdom, and Magadha prospered under him. Bimbisara was succeeded by his son Ajatashatru.
Okay. So let's go back here. You see that somehow the king Bimsara, he was a successful king that spread his power and influence on others' kingdoms through war as well as marriage. Basically, he was born around 545 BCE, and he was the Buddha contemporary king. He raised the power by become the king when he was only 15 years old. And like in that video clips, they just mentioned that he explained his influence through marriage. So his first wife was Kosala Devi. She was the daughter and sister of the king Prasenji of Kosala, and this marriage had these two kingdoms and their hostility. And the next wife he has was Jalana. She was the daughters of a king from Vaisali. So this marriage paved the way for his expansion of his emperor, both westward and northward. And the third wife is Kema, the daughter of Maja, administrators of Punjab. And the fourth one is the Vadeli, and she was the daughter of Videha. So he maintained the religious tolerance. That means he provide the equal treatment toward religious people in his kingdom. And of course, the Buddhas went back to the Raja Jaham city to give the teaching to this king. And so somehow he so admired the Buddha that he offered the Buddha bamboo grove garden so that the Buddha could live and taught his disciple. So let me share with you the monastery that was considered as the bamboo grove monastery that was offered by the king Bimbisara here in this church. So this is the window fan. That's mean the bamboo grove was the royal park given to Lord Buddhas for his residence at Raji, the king Bimbisara. And so this was the king first offering to the Lord Buddha. According to the Buddhist traditions, this was a favorite resource of Buddha when he stayed at this city. Here, this one video clips that I group of Buddhist people, I think from Malaysia, to visit there since they spoke Malaysian language. I just mute the sounds so that you can see and read the subtitle here. So a lot of Buddhists visit this special place that where here where the Buddhas sit. They build that platform, and this is the things that they write down in white marbles to inspire the Buddha teaching at that holy place. And here they erect the Buddha statue. Here, the place where Shariputra and Moggallana to become monks at this monastery. And you see they put a paper roll onto the pillars, onto the Buddha and his disciple statue. So every year, thousands of people visit this place and others Buddhist holy places. Here, the monks say that here's the place where 1250 monks came together at one place where they sat to listen to Buddha teachings. So he said, yeah, he led people to do meditation before the chanting. Okay, so that relate to the park that this king offer to the Buddha as a special gift, and according to the record, it say that when the Buddha gave the teaching at that monastery, the king used to come and listen to Buddha's sermon in one occasion. So this king told the Buddha that before, when I was a prince, I have 5 wishes. They are now fulfilled. So he said that his first wish was that he should associate with us. So the first wish is to become a king. And the second wish was that in fully enlightenment one should visit his country. The third wish was that he should associate with that enlightened one. The fourth wish he like to have was that he should teach the doctrine to him. That means the Buddha would teach the doctrine to him. And the last wish that he could understand the doctrine. So now all 5 wishes were fulfilled because after listening to the Buddha teachings, Bimbisara attained the first stage of arahantship or sainthood. So that's why he expressed to Buddha that 5 wishes. So we studied before that the lay people could attain up to 3rd stage of arahantship, but only the monks and nuns could attain the last stage of arahantship. But in general, most of the time, when the Buddha gave the teachings to the lay people, they would attain the first stage of arahantship, or what we call enter the stream. So the 2 basic reasons or conditions for them to enter the stream are that first, they have unshakable faith to the Buddha, Dhamma, and Sangha. That means they have no doubt about Buddha, Dhamma, and Sangha, regardless of situations. And the second condition is that there's no attachment to the ego, to the own self. So those are the 2 basic conditions for them to enter the stream, attain the first stage of arahantship. So after that, after listen to the teaching, after he attend that first stage of arahantship, so he became one of the Buddha devout disciple. So he support the Buddha mission in the era, and but somehow again he still promotes religious tolerance, and even in the Jain traditions, or what you call the naked religious traditions. They say that in their records, they mention that this king also support them, like the way that he support the Buddha and his Sangha. So due to his karma, he end up being imprisoned by his own son. And according to the legend, it says that somehow it did not come by itself. It has some reason there. So according to the legend, they say that when this king Bimsara was young, so he really wanted to have a son, so that later on his son could become the next king. So he went around to pray for having a son, but he could not. So one day he went to the forest and met cultivators, and he was so sincere to request these cultivators to bless him to have a son. And you know, up to now, most of Asian people believe in reincarnation. So this can request that after you die, please become my son. So these cultivators say, yes, I can. But somehow later on, the king went back and killed that cultivators because he really wanted to have a son. So because he killed that cultivators, he really that kind of conflict, animosity with that cultivators. So when his queen gave birth to a son, he was so happy, but somehow there's some stories say that one day the son has some problem with his fingers. His finger was swollen with the infection, and so the king didn't care much about himself, and so he put his son's finger into his mouth and pour all the blood out of the son fingers, so that could help him to reduce the degree of infection. And later on, when the prince grew up, somehow he had ambition to become a next king. So he tries so many things to gain that type of kingship, but somehow he could not. But we know later on the story that Devadatta, the Buddha's cousin, team up with this young prince and try to harm the king as well as the Buddha. So one day at night, the king was alarmed by his minister that someone tried to assassinate him, tried to kill him. And he found out that his son, that's mean the prince, tried to kill him. And so this king, he said that, well, why you want to kill me? So this prince He said that because I want to become a next king. And so this king say, well, if that's the case, why don't you tell me first? I can let go of the throne and enthrone you as the next king. So, but his minister didn't uh, accept that kind of offering. So they advised the king that you should not let your son become the next king. You should punish him. Uh, but our compassion, this king Bimbisara follow his always. That means he enthroned his son Achatasattu to become the next king. But uh, later on, his son Achatasattu imprisoned him. So he didn't allow his father, King Bimbisara, to eat anything else, so that he could pass away. But his mother, the queen, she applied some honeys and flour onto her body and went to see the king in the prison. And whenever she went out, she would take that kind of flour and honeys to give to the king. So later on, somehow the young king, Achatasattu, asked the officer who take care of that prison was about the condition of his fathers. So they told him the story that the queen came to visit the king and get the honey and the flowers. That's why the king still survived. So that's make the young king so angry that he almost tried to kill his mothers. So all the minister uh, stopped him and told him that in the past there were many princes that tried to kill their fathers to become a next king, but no one would try to kill his mothers. So that's why he stopped to kill his mothers. And so of course it's related to the Pure Land tradition, especially in the Mahayana tradition. They say that at that time, the queen Videhi, she's so depressed that she could not endure the witness that her son tried to kill her husband and even herself too. So she made the request to Shakyamuni Buddhas that please let me know on the Buddha land so that I can be reborn over there, so that I would not be reborn here in this samsara to see this kind of unfilial son. So that's why the Buddha used his second power to show the queen Videhi many Buddha lands, and eventually she picked up the land of Amitabha Buddha and request the Buddha gave the teaching of that Amitabha Buddha. That's why we have the Pure Land traditions, and later on we can discuss about that. So since time is up, let me stop here today. And next time we can discuss further about the life Buddha. Nam mô Shakyamuni Buddha.